Hey everybody, I hope everybody's doing well. In case many of you don't know, my name is Nico House. I was the one who made the initial video essentially questioning some of the practices that were going on in North Carolina. And this video I wasn't actually going to make at first until I received some new information this morning confirming what I had initially thought. And so we decided to go ahead and bring some of these things into question. So very quickly, yesterday, I received a phone call from the deputy field director of the national campaign. His name is Christopher Smith. And what he informed me was that he was the one who had hired Aisha Dew, and which is perfectly fine. You know, it is what it is. I questioned him, and the first thing I asked, of course, because this is the question that has been plaguing the internet recently, is why? What exactly made you think that this person was qualified to run North Carolina? And I asked him, and he said that he had worked with her before when he was working on another campaign in North Carolina. That raised red flags to me because the guy that he worked for was progressive. I know Aisha Dew. I know people she works for, and not one of them are progressive. They're all establishment. She doesn't work for campaigns that she thinks she will lose or has a chance to lose. Not unless there's something in it for her. So, with that being said, I automatically raised questions. Because I'm like, you say you work with Aisha, but I know for a fact you didn't work with her on the campaign that you were on, that you were hired to do. And so, I questioned him again. I said, I heard you worked with her, that's fine. So exactly what made you think she was qualified? Then he pitched to me the black line, which is usually goes a little something like, think about the opportunities for black people that we don't have, and A, B, C, D. You know, the same shit that they've been preaching to, I'm sure, to all the African American caucus members and all the black congressional caucus members that endorse Hillary, saying, think about the opportunities we'll have. We will be helping each other out. Sacrifice a little bit of your principle now to give, to hopefully give an opportunity later. That's what we've been getting pitched to us. That's what got pitched to me. And it went from think about that to, well, think about you don't want to sever any connections. You don't want to sever any opportunities for your political career. That I'm like, sorry, I didn't say I wanted to run for anything. I didn't say I was ever going to be in politics. I wasn't even planning on being in politics this year. This kind of happened by coincidence just because of how much I appreciate Bernie's authenticity. So that line was never going to work on me. And it sounds like a line that I've heard plenty of times as a Hillary pitch or an establishment pitch. And so that, number two, raised red flags for me. So then the last thing that raised red flags for me was that he said he was a deputy field director, or not the last thing, but another thing that raised red flags for me. He said he was a deputy field director of the national campaign. Two things wrong with that. I asked him, did you contact Shannon Jackson like I asked? When I emailed Shannon, I said, I would prefer not to be contacted by anyone who isn't in the Sanders family or Shannon Jackson himself, because I don't trust anyone in that campaign right now for very obvious reasons that were confirmed today and that will be getting released, hopefully, if not today, then tomorrow in this story, because we keep pushing the stories back because people keep coming forward. And so with that being said, he said, no, I didn't consult with anybody. I said, well, why didn't you consult with the national campaign? Because I would have assumed this is a press matter. And don't y'all have people to deal with these situations? That should have contacted me first before you took it upon yourself to contact me. And then he starts insulting my intelligence, telling me what I don't understand about politics, what I don't know about, the campaign. Like I haven't been involved in it way before he was, 6 or 7 months before he was. That I don't know how things are run. And, because then he went from trying to do that, then he realized that wasn't happening. So then he tried to patronize me and appeal to my ambition. And that didn't work. And so then he tried to name drop people that I know personally as if they would vouch for him. And the only thing they said is, this person worked for me as a recruiter. And that was it. So, that being said, how did you go from being a recruiter on a progressive campaign to meeting Aisha Dew, who is not progressive at all, does not work with the African American caucus, did not work with that campaign at all, to becoming the deputy field director for the presidential campaign of Bernie Sanders. Now we get back to the same old damn story that we keep. And I thought that North Carolina was an anomaly. And I thought, like, okay, this is happening everywhere, so it's not that big of a deal. Then I always forget how close we are to D.C. I always forget how important Chapel Hill and UNC and the UNC system is to D.C. And I always, I forget these things because when you live inside something, you kind of take it for granted and move on. But once again, the common denominator is North Carolina. You come down to North Carolina to help out with a progressive campaign that was more or less working with zero money. Once again, I told you before that the Democratic Party decided to put their money into individual candidates, which was against the rules, but they were doing it anyway. And so all the progressive candidates were being obstructed financially by the Democratic Party that they were filing under, that they were running under. So, I said, okay, so who vetted her? Oh, I did. Whoa, okay, well, that's interesting. So you knew about her quality. Okay, so exactly, she couldn't even run a campaign in a county. What made you think that she was qualified to run for the state or to run a state? Well, who else was an African American that could have ran that state? I said, that's a little insulting considering I know for a fact that you got over 40 applications. And you're trying to convince me not one of them was a minority? And I know for a fact that I know people in the African American caucus or in the Democratic Party or people who are even volunteering that would have been amazing for the state. That I know would have hired black people, that I know would have hired Hispanics, that I know who would have hired Arabs and Desis and Muslims. So that didn't work because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if you're truly believing in this revolution that you're working for, then you would know that Bernie Sanders is doing this so that we don't have to do shady dealings in order for us to make and create opportunity for ourselves and others. If you truly believe and you truly understood that revolution. And so, with that being said, I questioned then, said, hey, very nicely, if you would like for me to trust you, I just need to know who you work for so that I know who hired you so that I know I can trust you. I got no response. Said, hey, I understand you said you want to do in what's best for Bernie. But if like I said, if I'm going to trust you, I have to know who hired you. No response. Now, this is speculative, but when you don't contact the campaign first, when I'm having a conversation with you, you get really defensive. You are actually not giving me any reason for the qualifications why Aisha Dew is qualified to run this state. And in the same time that the Democratic candidate was known for being part of Hillary's campaign, you come to North Carolina. You come to North Carolina. You end up deputy field director of the national campaign, and Aisha Dew gets coincidentally placed as the state director. And people knew that Aisha Dew was going to be placed as state director weeks before, which means that was already news within the Democratic Party of North Carolina. Look, I can set up the pins all day. I'll leave it up to y'all to knock them down. But here we are.